The Lord's way. I've heard that phrase, as if someone had broken a glass on the inside of the top of my head. It was not just what they said it was like that. The content which does not require a license. The expression of one who has already decided on who do you think deserves to be here, and those who do not deserve it or breathing in the same air. And I was there, standing at the bottom of the chamber, the phone shaking in my hand, and your heart is beating so loud I swear the mic is in the place it should take. I have a channel. I tell stories. I investigate. I will show you what the majority prefer to hide in. On that day, I thought I was going to shoot the film, just another of a court, of those who have seen the fuss over the 2 days and then disappear. But I was wrong. For a man who heard him, the Lord upset, was not one of the old kind to surrender to tear easily. It was not a fellow of the novel, i.e., he was a man in simple clothes, shoes worn, and it's a folder, black tight against his chest. Like the one folder, it's the last thing that still kept him in the foot. And when the sentence cut off his air, I saw the thing, and the camera never shows up. The second exactly when a person decides to see if it will shrink, or if you will turn to stone. He turned to stone. But that's not the way everyone had hoped for. I'm going to tell you everything. I just need you to come with me to the end of it, because what happened was so absurd, so cruel, that for a few minutes I didn't doubt what he was seeing, and I thought I knew who you were, the bad guy in this story. Right up until the moment that I realized that I had been used as a part of a great game too. And the worst part? I only realized it when it was too late. Breathe in, because now, the Lord's way. I swear to you, you have a sentence that is not a sentence. It's a life sentence. It's a stamp, not visible in the head of someone saying, you don't belong here. And when the president is on the table and dropped it in the way the cold, rolling her eyes, as if he was taking out the garbage can in the right way. The floor was a strange sound. Have you ever heard of this band? A half laugh stuck in a, the collective, that the expectation of her who wants to see the mess happening right in front of them, free of charge. And I was there. I'm looking forward to filming with the cell phone in his hand, the same way that I always do for my channel. And I just felt at the time that it was not just an audience. You know when your skin shiver before the brain to understand why, you ask? It was just like that. I replied, if you were there, you were going to laugh with, or I would be embarrassed to be breathing the same air. Because I've seen people laughing. I saw the people on the chair like one who is preparing to attend a show. And then, from that point on, the show was an old man, all alone, trying to speak. He got up slowly. It was not as a stage actor. It was hard, as if every muscle had a memory of being tired. Your hands were shaking, just a little. Enough of us reporting that his courage was not the belief. Came a time of need. The courage of those who don't have that option. He straightened the collar of his shirt, looked to the microphone. And before he opens his mouth, someone whispered, that is too high. It comes from history. And soon after that, the lower, as the venom is served on the little spoon, you must be wanting in anything. I have captured from reading her lips, and it gave me a lump in my throat because I know this is kind of a trial. You know that too, right? When a person is not told, and now he was dead. When her presence annoys her just for existing. And here comes the one thing that I will always, I repeat, on my channel. From time to time, the most important thing is, he finds out. It's when everyone decides to laugh along with him. Why is it that laughter is the cruelty becomes normal? The Lord took a deep breath, and as he spoke with a calm that I didn't understand it at the time. It's a calm that seemed to be impossible in the midst of the circus. I have not come to ask of you. I've come to deliver. You are able to feel the impact of this type of phrase. Turn over. Don't beg. Don't argue. Give up. As if he had something that wasn't an opinion. It was not a rant. It's in a sealed package. And there, my friend, it began the very first thing in garden. Because as soon as he said this, a woman in the front row turned his face, as if he had heard his blasphemy. A man in a suit next to her took her hand to the ear and moved to a point in the invisible, as if he had a phone and looked at the back, straight to the door. That was quick, but it was real. And I thought at the time why anyone would have reacted that way to phrase it so simple. He was about to surrender that has made us powerful, moving, as if he had taken a shock. The chairman of the table smiled at the corner. That smile. Those who think it's the boss up in time to each other. The Lord out of hand. Now it's time to other things. The Lord will hinder your progress. And you notice it, and he said, upset her again. But now with the creation of more refined. It was not a direct hit. It was the worst. It was that sort of a sentence in which you try to put on the time and place, you know. The place for those who don't understand the way things work. And the audience laughed more free. Now tell me, how many times have you seen someone will be decreased as well, and all over the world to treat it as a joke? Because I think the camera is turned on, but on the inside, I'm locked out. I know that when you are humiliated like this in public, but there is always a reason, or wanting to break up in the head, or do you want to stop her to open her mouth? And it was only then that I noticed the detail that almost no one has noticed, folder black, which he had had with a lacquered red. I swear to you, it was not in a folder somewhere. It was one of those that seemed to be a document in the register with the label, with a timestamp, and a seal on it. You just put on when you want to try a simple and powerful. No one has opened it. Or in other words, the one that was in there was going to be a first time in front of the whole world. And I say unto you, that if you were the chairman of the board, would you let this man talking about? Or you would do exactly what he has done then. Oh Lord, she's the folder that was on the stand as one who puts a piece on a board, and he says, now it's my turn now. I'm asking just 3 to 6 minutes. 3 of them. 3 minutes. It seems a little, you know. It's simple. It's polite. Just who is in charge does not like to humble when it was given to us. Because of humility, there is the challenge. It's someone saying, I don't need your show to have a reason. The president made a gesture with his hand, as someone who exoda a bug. Have you ever been driven? Have a seat. Do not create an uproar. And from that point on, the elder did not argue. Do not pleaded. Don't raise your voice. He just turned his face and looked to the floor. And after that, he looked at me. Yes, for me. And have you noticed a look of that? It seems to choose you in the middle of a crowd, as if he had said without the words, I know what you're writing, and I have to make sure you're serious? That was it. I felt a shiver go up, because I had seen a lot of political theater. But that look was not that of one who was at a loss. He was the one who had a card tucked away in his pocket, and was just waiting for the right moment to turn the tables. And I just realized something terrifying. He wasn't afraid of being humiliated. He was in a hurry. It's just that before we turn around, the floor he decided to smash it. And I'll tell you, when I saw what they did and then I don't think that's the one, the Lord has spoiled it was, not the beginning of the conflict. It was a warning that someone is in there. He was about to fall off. Have you ever seen anyone be ashamed with no one to raise a voice? This is the most dangerous, because it comes in the form of education. An aide stood up and made his way to the Lord. My steps are measured, did not touch it. But it was too close. Your presence was a boost to stealth. Let's go, sir. Please. The please came out with a smile that did not reach his eyes. The Lord came to a standstill. You need to cooperate, okay? He said he's still smiling. From behind, someone else did. Is the sound of a cough forcefully, and laughter is muffled. Another one commented anything about the people who don't see. I saw it in a glass of water slipping of the table, and landed on the ground right next to the shoe of the old man. Don't hit him, but it was close enough to me to be a trick. You're a nuisance. You're making a mess on our floor. The Lord looked to the cup, then looked to the president. I brought him. He tried to. That's it. The president of the slit. And then it happened. Something terrible. And the ones that seem small, but it can destroy a person. On the inside, someone has turned off the microphone. The sound of the ICT, it was louder than any scream. Because of the ICT, he said, you don't have a voice here. The elderly man opened his mouth. Nothing came out from the speaker. The audience laughed at the most. I, along with the cell phone in his hand, I felt that the anger of hot, but at the same time, and there came a fear to deal with this, is usually the price. Even so, I kept on shooting, for the Lord will not be despaired of. He doesn't hit the table. Do not pleaded. He just put his hand on the microphone is turned off, as those who confirm, okay, "So what do you want to play?" And then he let out a sentence in short, almost to himself, but as far as I got because it was the closest. "It's going to be the hard way." I swallowed dry. The hard way? What was he talking about? That was when a woman in the audience stood up and pointed at him, and without shame, "You're messing up. Leave the session to go." The word "getting" turned to him. This is how it happens. Someone who gives the order, and on the other, are repeated, thinking that it is the opinion of its own. And I thought he was going to back down, but he did just the opposite. He pulled out the seal in red folder, and I saw it clearly. Many heads turned at the same time. It's as if a silent alarm had sounded. Some people stopped laughing at the time. He had people that he was pale, and it was for a man, one of the most important that there is from those with a guy who is in charge. Even if you're not at the table, you got up so quickly that the chair nearly fell over. I saw the despair in his eyes, and in that moment I realized the humiliation. It was not only them, it was a tactic. They were trying to prevent the man's to speak of, until the very last second. Why, you ask? Because that's all he had in that folder. It was too dangerous. But I still don't know how to be dangerous. The aide came over. "Oh Lord, deliver it here. It is not allowed to." The elderly man held out the folder with the force. The bone of the hand, it was marked on the skin. "It is allowed by law." And he said, "The law," and the weight that had been punched into the air. The chairman of the board was red, but he tried to keep his posture. Safety and security. Withdraw to the Lord out of kindness towards them. And then there was a scene that gives me a knot in my stomach to this day. 2 of the guards came to him, 1 on each side. They also haven't touched it right away. They will do what you do when you want to humiliate them without leaving a mark. They besieged it. Space is not over yet. The air changes. Dignity is gone. The old gentleman took a step back and hit the leg of the chair. He almost went down. I've seen many people with a smile. I've seen people shooting with your phone, as if it was going to be other. I've seen people cheering for the fall not happened, and that's when I, without realizing it, I took a step forward. Yes, I do. I'm not a hero. I did not make a speech. I only gave it one by step. The man in the suit, the one that rose up before me, saw him. He stared at it as if I was the problem. It comes to no surprise that no one was prepared, and he made a gesture is polite to someone on the side. And I've seen a guy pull out your phone and point the camera at me. At the time, I don't think they were just trying to shut up the old man. They were mapping out who I was checking in. And I think to myself, okay, this is more than I thought. The elderly lady in the back, she raised her chin and spoke in a high without a microphone. "I've been here, a protocol officer. I've been here for a look, and I'm here with a request. You may not be accepted." The president laughed, a laughter cold. "Who do you think you're in control? You're confusing things." The elderly man did not blink. "Not at all. Who is puzzled was the one who signed it." Silence. That type of silence that is, until the laughter to die, because the whole world feels that something is going to burst. And then the old gentleman said the name of someone else. "I'm not going to use your real name, and this is where I'm going to move everything to protect the people, because I know how those stories end up pointing the finger is pro in all the wrong places. So I'm going to call it a man in a suit of Dr. Walnut, and I'm going to call it the old Andamancio." Your Amancio said, "He has a PhD in walnut. What do you want to, even though I have read through the 4 in out loud?" Dr. Walnut freeze, and I saw the most frightening thing about it. A powerful man, used to send them to death for the sake of an old man with a shoe is worn. It wasn't normal. And there you have it. Before getting an answer, the president has taken a hammer, at the end of speech, to leave. The security guards finally played it, and in that moment, your Amancio dropped the folder on the stand and let it fall to the ground with a thud dry. The seal on the red ring, papers were scattered, and you, my friend. It was only then that he began to chaos. Before I continue, let me ask you one thing. I want you with me on this. Comment below in word, to bear. If you ever see someone else being treated like crap for not having the look and feel, or in charge, I read the reviews, and I want to know if this has ever happened around you as well. Breathe in. Now comes the turning point. When the paper fell away, the entire audience has made him a movement of the body, which many people do when they see something that is forbidden in half. You want to look at it, Half of you pretend that you didn't see it, but and I filmed it. It had the stamp, was the number of the process. He had signed, he had a seal, she had a text from the internet. It wasn't print button. It was a serious thing. The chairman of the board has tried to take control of it. Take this out right now! It's just that the more important, as it was in the hands of your Amancio. He's got like one who grabs a gun, you just dropped it on the floor. And it wasn't the gun metal, it's the weapon of the truth of the information. He took up the paper and said, with a quiet, almost to the offensive, I'm just in the reading of the opinion. The phrase, just let the whole world's angry, because she was taking up the drama. She took out the riot. It desmontava of the story was that he was an old and confused. The chairman of the board looked at the prose side, looking for support. That's not, your Amancio broke, without a cry. It is registered. The word registered is a kind of magic, because it is not a drama. It is a bureaucracy. And in the bureaucracy, in the game, this is him. The president, he tried again. Even so, we have to order and, your Amancio, he took a step forward. And, for the first time, I saw a different look to it. It was not out of anger. He was sure of. According to who? For this question, it fell on the floor like a brick, because when you say, the order of who, you're saying, I know that you don't send it myself. That's where the president was silent for 2 seconds. For 2 seconds, which seemed like an eternity. It was in that hole in the silence I realized something else. Some city council members were on the cell phone in his hand, but are not shooting of typing. The message, in a hurry, a state of panic. Your Amancio. He lifted the paper again. Read them. That's it. And so it came to pass in the second trap, the president, in trying to show authority, and picked up the paper with the force, and he said, let's go see what it is. He began to read out loud, and thinking that it was going to soften the old man. It's just that, in the midst of the reading, his voice failed him. Failed too, indeed, because of the text that was not what he had expected. And I saw the perspiration appearing on his forehead for him. He jumped up in a row. Your Amancio on the side, and spoke in a low but firm, don't skip it. The chair was red, and he tried to laugh. What are you going to teach me how to read it right now? Your Amancio said, I'm just going to remind you that you have a camera. And then he looked at me again. Oh man, when he looked at me and I wasn't there by accident. I was in the race. The president, as it was, she continued to read. For each sentence, the floor was hard. And then, when he arrived in the box with your Amancio, called Item 4, the room freezes over. I'm going to explain it in a simple way because you told the public it is a novice too. In politics and in public, there's a lot it is drama. A lot. We do talk pretty, fight for the camera, strike a pose from the early, and in the end, nothing will change. But on paper I stamped, stamp a game changer. The item is for the talk of the contract. A contract that, according to the document, had been signed several months before, and he had a clause in it hidden, which would result in an audit of emergency for the values in the case of a technical adjustment. Up there, it could just be juridiques. It's just that, when the president read out the value of the revision to, he stopped. He breathed in, and read it again, more slowly, as if he were trying to wake up from a nightmare, because it was absurd. I'm not going to give you this number right here. Not yet. Because that's the worst part of it was not of the number. The worst part about it was the following sentence. Beneficiary and method. A legal entity that is linked by kinship in the second level of the individual responsible for the approval. Translate. I had a relative in the middle. The plenary session, the whole was understood at the same time. Some people who swallowed. Some people will let out a high. And it was the people who did what I always do when the floor is open. He tried to blame the messenger. This is a fake, shouted someone else. Your Amancio pointed to the pro seal. False. It has the stamp of a notary public. The person remained silent. The president has tried to go back to the master. This document needs to be reviewed. Your Amancio said it has already been discussed for the 3 cases. And then he pulled out another piece of paper from the folder. Over the stamp. Longer seal life. And so it came as a surprise that I was not ready for it. It was a recording. Yes. records. It does not put us to play there, and I'm not even going to go into technical details, but he referred to the existence. He gave the dates quoted in the Times. And who knew that it was true? He was pale. Dr. Walnut, the man in the suit, was empty. White, same as you. The president stammered out, "This is a serious felony charge. Your Amancio has not been kind. He will not be taken." He only said, "Take it. What did you do in the city?" And then finally the president read out the value. The air was just 7 million of us. When he said 19 million, I have seen the transformation of the hall in real time. The laughter died out. All the comments are gone. The cell phones that were filmed in the elderly have decreased a little, and slowly, as if the people were ashamed of what they were doing. The 19 million, it is not a little mistake. It is not a set. It is not a mistake. The 19 million, it is the thing that can change the life of a city. It is in our world. This is a hospital. It's living. It is a food. It's with dignity. And in that moment, I felt the strangest thing. The humiliation they have made with their Amancio has started to come back as if it is invisible. The chairman of the board has attempted to divert. Does this need to? But he doesn't have the voice for it, because his voice was swallowed up by the weight of it. And so it came to pass, one of the most shocking things in the night. A local politician, who minutes before a lagoon in the old, rose to his feet and began to applaud. Love it. Strong. As if it ever was on the right side. Do you understand the evil in that? He was trying to save you the hard way, moving out in the middle of the boat sinking. The others followed him. The palm trees. A choir is a pretender. I've seen your Amancio looking at that with no emotion. And then he made a gesture. He raised his hand, calling for silence. The plenary session followed. At the time, who told them he was the one? And I think to myself, how has this man come to such a point? Who is he? I swear to you, I thought that the story was about an old man was humbled that I was going through a document. But by then, it came to a surprise that he broke it all. Your Amancio said, "This is not the end of it. This is just the beginning." And that was when I felt the ice in the back of his neck. The beginning? He looked to the chair and said, "Now read the attachment. Appendix." The word attachment is a dangerous one, because that's where the truth is often hidden from view. The president picked up the paper in his hand, trembling, shaking himself, and before him, to read it. And I'm going to ask you to comment here. What has been the biggest injustice that you have seen being swept me under the rug? No need to name names, but I'm the type of situation. I want you to understand that this is an isolated case, or if it's standard in which you live. Now it's your secure. Because of the attachment, it wasn't just about the money. It was about the people. The chair, and began to read the attachment in a voice faltering. And then, for each row, I could see his face melt away. In the annex, said that the agreement was attached to the project to the public with a name that beautiful, Renew, a name which becomes the image of hope. Only Renew was the cover story. The reading, which showed that the project involved the removal of families from the area of high risk. Even then, it might be something you need. The document pointed out the real target from the ground, then a concession to the private enterprise, with the forecast for a high income. Reflecting again, you were going to get poor people out of a place and turn it into gold to someone else. And the most cruel in the background, and the families were taken to temporary accommodation for a temporary period. Do you know what temporary means when you don't have the power? It means there is, and then we'll see. And then there was the emotional blow that caused the floor to hold the breath in your Amancio was told that he was there. I do not live in the same area. He said it with no drama, no tears, just how to be a fact. I buried my wife in there. I raised my children here. I've seen a grandson to be born there. And it was at that moment that I realized the weight of what they had done to him. They were not only humiliating an old man, they were humble, someone who was advocating for a community as a whole. But the surprise was not that. Your Amancio picked up another piece of paper and wrote, "The project is to renew." He was born with a different purpose, with a purpose to clean. The housing of the people, settlement, safety, and security. He looked to the president. Have you deviated from the route? And then he let out a sentence that no one was expecting. I helped to write the first version of the project. I felt the ground fall away. What do you mean? Who was this man? The president stammered out. That's not... Your Amancio said I worked for 30 years in the legal department of the city government. My friend, from that point on, the floor got it. That he wasn't an old man's lost. He was a man who knew all the gear for the inside. And there you have it. If you can see me up here, I'm going to be straight up with you. Just the way that I talk about on my channel. Register now, because what comes next is the part of you that no one account. I am going to show you how this kind of thing happens. They try to silence those who know too much, and how, too, full justice appears, in which no one expected. If you sign up, you won't miss out on the upcoming stories, and also strengthens you in this type of content, is that it does not go anywhere. Now, back to me. Because that's the real purpose of the project, was not just about housing. It was a settling of accounts. When your Amancio revealed that she worked in the legal, and the floor turned out to be a chessboard on fire. The people who laugh now shying away from the look. We back now, it seemed like a small. And then came the confirmation of the printing press. I saw the reporters coming in a hurry. I saw a great camera, a microphone, and people whispering to one another. What happened was leaked in real time. Your phone buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. The president has tried to break. We will suspend the session. But it is in your Amancio said something that I will never forget. Sleep does not delete the protocol. And it was like a slap of reality. Because when something comes on your system, you can scream, you can slap, hammer on, you can drive out, but you don't go out. But the most shocking part was still to come. Why is the Dr. Walnut, the man in the suit, and gave the 2 steps forward and tried to take over the role? And then something happened that no one expected. One of the guards, the same who accompanied him to the elder, and he stood in front of Mr. Norton. Yes, the guard moved to the side. Do you see the size of it? The guy who was there to take the elderly man decided to help protect the elderly. Dr. Noguera said anything, angry. I don't listen to me. But as you can see on the mouth, saying in a word I recognized it, you won't regret it. The security guard did not flinch, and Amancio looked to the doctor in walnut and said, I've regretted it for you. Now it's your turn. The floor was silent. So, I thought that the story was going to end right there, with a melt in palm trees. Only that it came to a surprise, to most dreary of all. I was not prepared for it, and it made me realize that this was more dirty than I thought it would be. I received a message on my cell phone, from an unknown number, a message with a photo. In the photo, I was there filming, and on the bottom, and a quote, save it, or have you seen the subject matter as well? I congelé. Have you ever felt your body freeze in a way that it appears that the blood was gone? That was it. Because he was not a threat to the internet. It was someone in there, the inside of the hall, watching me, warning, I know who you are. And in that moment, I realized that it wasn't just the Amancio, which was right on target. It was either to keep for the truth. And then I did the hardest thing. I kept on shooting. Why, I thought to myself, if I stop, they win. But I still don't know what the worst part of it wasn't for the threat. The worst part about it was that his Amancio had not yet been revealed. You may find that it is a law, a child born with the quiet, in the office, in the meeting vote. It's cute, but sometimes it is born out of chaos, in the constraint. At the moment when you lose the control, and for the world to see. Your Amancio, with that calm is impossible, he said. Protocol is also a demand for immediate action, and he's already signed up. The president opened his eyes. And signed by whom? Your Amancio did not respond to the first one. He looked at the floor the whole and he said, for those of you not able to control it. The line was a hit, and then he took it out of the folder in a document bearing the signature and seal of the external body, such that it does not rely on the table, it is not dependent on the president, it does not rely on the game's site. The president, as he looked up, lost for the rest of the pose. He tried to stand, but her legs failed. He sat again. The floor began to speak in a low voice. A lot of people at the same time, in the mayhem. And in the midst of the chaos, Her Amancio said something that hurt more than anything else. I've tried to talk to you in silence. I have sent to the office. I asked for a meeting. I ordered a hearing. You burst out laughing. He looked to the general public. Then I brought out the noise. I felt a lump in my throat. Because of the humiliation from the very beginning, is now, had turned into a proof that they didn't have a limit. They will only respect you when they are bound to do so. And I'm going to ask you one thing right now, and I want you to ask in the comments. The truth is, do you think that people, the powerful one, can only understand when it turns to the audience? Comment yes or no, I said, for what it is. I'm going to fix some of the comments so we can talk. I just need to tell you about the detail of the more shocking for this topic on the law, that he was born, there was a trigger. A trigger is that no one has seen. Your Amancio, he said, slowly, as someone who teaches a class. If these terms of use is considered improper, and that he is to enter into force automatically to the provision and social protection of the original design, without delay. The right to vote, without any backlash, the floor has. It was as if he had laid a trap for the inside of the system itself. If you try to steal it, the system is protected. And then came the sentence, which was closed in the box. You have attempted to transform the House is popular for a profit. Now they're going to turn a profit on the race. The president had no more to say. Dr. I. Noguera looked like a man drowning, and I, along with the cell phone in his hand, I thought the end would be Amancio out there, in silence, in a respectful way. But it's not. The ending was a revelation, which changes everything. And when I don't think that he looked me in the beginning. He knew that I needed to be there because I too was part of it, without even knowing it. The session ended on the way to a more awkward as possible. It's not finished. She collapsed. The president has tried to sleep, but he no longer seemed to matter. The reporters surrounded him. The people cried out. Dr. Noguera went faster, pushing and shoving the people, like one who runs away from a fire. The security guard who had gone to decide it was on the side of your Amancio firm. And Amancio, he took a deep breath, picked up the folder, picked up the paper slowly. In the quiet, for him, it was the judgment. I walked up, still filming, so I asked him, There, Lord, that the Lord has looked upon me? He faced me with a look of tired but awake, because I know about your channel. I congelé. What do you mean? He gave a half smile. Because you were the one who told the story of the archives of the works in the past year. I kind of felt your heart beat stronger. The story had given me a headache for a month. People calling me. There are people following me, comment on, threatening you. I thought you had gone. It had in the past. He went on to say, At that time I've seen that you don't flinch. And I thought to myself, if I have someone else, it's going to be you. I didn't get to talk. And then there was the revelation in the end. The more chance that it turns into the story from the inside out. I didn't come here today just for me, he said. I came because somebody in here has tried to erase the original and tried to put the name of who wrote it. He played it in its own folder. I am the author of the project to renovate, the real thing, before it is stolen. My body froze up. The elderly and humiliated. He was the creator of the project, that they were upsetting. But you don't have to stop there. He looked around and said quietly, so only I could hear, and you know why they are so afraid of. I swallowed dry. Why is that? He said, Because I didn't bring you only the paper. I brought them to the list. A list of what? He stepped up to, On the list of those who earned it. From that point on, I've got it. It wasn't a scandal. He was on the edge of the network. And what's worse, the message that I got on the phone makes sense to me. They knew that if I can show them this list was no longer around. Your Amancio, he put his hand on my shoulder, and it was only then that I felt the weight of the human side of the story. I don't have the time to be afraid. But you still have a life to protect them. So you choose. Either you have published it, or do you pretend you didn't see it? He let out the last sentence, the one that closes as the knife. And, if you can pretend that you have not seen, you become an accomplice. I was standing there with his throat dry. And I'm going to confess, right now, looking at the direct to you, I've never felt a responsibility to be as heavy as that point in time. Because it's not on The View. It wasn't about the channel. It was about the truth and the price of truth. The Amancio came out slowly, as if nothing had happened. It's just that, when it happened, no one laughed. There was upset. No one dared to. The respect came later, but it is. And your karma? The switch does not come in the form of a shout-out. It came in the form of paper, a stamped. The camera is turned on. The fear in the eyes of those who thought that it was the same. Now I want to ask you one more thing to do, and I'm going to ask for it with the strength of this story. It deserves. If you subscribe to the channel now, why would I tell you true stories and disturbing as this is? And the more we recorded, the more this is the kind of thing that wins you the light. Share this video with someone. You need to remember that appearance is deceptive, but the document is in control. Send to family, to friends, to the group that always talks about the "it will never give up in anything." Leave your like, because it pushes the video to more people, and as that message is to escape from the bubbles. Comment below, do you think that the Amancio was brave? Or he was required to turn in a brave because no one left around? I want to read the latest news. And most importantly, tell me if you want a part 2. Now pay attention. You have a history of showing up on your screen. Click to watch it now. Because if this turned you chills, the next one is going to leave you out of breath.